Welcome to the Big 12 podcast. This is week number what is it? 7? This is show 207. I know that.
Week 8.
We took it's week 8, but we took a week off because if it's good enough for Mike Gunday, it's good enough for us. OSU had a bye week this past week, so we took the week off as well. It just kind of happened, whatever. But welcome back to B12 podcast, your home for whatever we want to say, and that's just the way it is, and you get to live with it and listen to it. So thank you for listening. As always, with me, EJ Hayes, Garrett Sauls, I'm Chris Armstrong. We kind of have a big week to get into. We have recaps on week 7, previews of week 8, of course, the expansion talk that is coming up. But first off, can we just take a moment of silence and celebrate Oklahoma State's 1945 National Football Champion?
First in Oklahoma.
First school to win football and basketball championships in the same year. Sorry, Florida. And we won wrestling that year. So that's pretty cool, right?
That's like the Triple Crown.
Right.
Wow.
So we were talking just a little bit before this show we started recording, but it's hilarious to see the reaction that's happened because OSU fans are like, yay, we won a national championship, whatever kind of thing, because, none of us were alive back then. But Garrett, why don't you tell us what's kind of going on the other side of it?
Oh, it's awesome. Again, just like you said, like this whole thing is kind of like, that's cool, I guess. But, we're not, I don't think any serious OSU fan is really lording the championship over people's heads. If anything, we're just doing it to watch OU fans squirm because their reaction has been absolutely priceless. Oh my gosh. They're taking it so serious. For not being a rival, they sure are taking it pretty seriously. And so it's just fun to kind of get under their skin and make a bigger deal of it than it is.
Well, so the more I see, the media, the older I get, the more I see media bias. And again, I think media bias is one of those things where if you're, biased in some way, it's more evident if somebody is slanting the other way. And then if somebody is biasing your way, then it's like kind of okay. So it's funny in that way. But I saw somebody say something to the effect of, they were slighting OSU, but they're like, yeah, OSU is claiming it. Like we're like, it's one of those things where people are claiming Big 12, Big 12 championship banners, and where it was split down the middle, but they didn't actually win it, but they're claiming it. No, we didn't claim nothing. We didn't start spouting it from the rooftops. Somebody awarded it to us. They went back in time and they had a discussion and looked at all the, surrounding issues of that season, the, whatever coast bias and the people who didn't even play in a bowl game and, the best team ever, Army, and all this other crap. And they awarded Oklahoma State a national championship. So
I declare bankruptcy, but I declared it.
So,
but I declared it.
It's particularly ironic because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, OU lays claim to a split national title from 1971. So, pop me
just
kettle.
one?
Yeah, you can't be playing their game. You can't be playing their game because they play it way better and have been playing that way longer. And they've caught crap for it. So at some point, if you play any type of their game, which we didn't, then they're going to roast you on Twitter. Those are the rules. Get it.
I think the funniest one I saw was it was a picture of Boone Pickens Stadium, like somebody out in the crowd took it down, looking down the field, and there was like an iOS pop-up overlaid on it. Somebody photoshopped, do you want to buy a national champion or in-app purchase? Do you want to buy a national championship for 99 cents? And one was like cancel and then buy or something like that. I was like, how petty can you get?
But you know what? Hey, I'll say this, that regardless of how serious people take it or not, that crystal ball is sitting in OSU's trophy room right now. And I'm telling you, recruits are going to see that, and it's not going to matter what year it was in. You're going to see a crystal ball and say, okay.
So wait, they actually handed us a crystal ball?
Yeah. Like the ones you get now.
Really?
Yeah.
That is so legit. I mean, I don't even care. You know, somebody said, "Hey, Gundy, hey, no pressure now. It's no big deal. It's like we've done this before. Just go do it again. No pressure."
So I guess the real deal is that there's some American International College Coaches, whatever association, some other crazy weird acronym that is trying to clean up kind of the stats between 1929 and 19 like that. And I guess part of the thing is all the undefeated teams or all the good teams that year would make their case, put their stats together, basically make an argument for the championship that year. And this organization would go through them and just decide. And you're right, OSU was awarded. Now we probably had some effort into it, but it's not like we are claiming it unjustly.
Mm-hmm.
Like we were legitimately 9-0 that year. We won a bowl game, and that's just the way it is. And we were awarded a national championship. So anyway,
And
congratulations. Yeah. So congratulations to both of you guys. We are now the former national championship Oklahoma State Cowboys.
So somebody tweeted, "Now I can officially say I was alive when OSU won a national championship in 1945."
Sure.
There you go.
There you go. That's my claim to
I
fame.
think it has changed our outlooks and personalities, tremendously.
It has mine personally.
We'll never be the same again.
Guys, we're a traditional powerhouse now.
Wow.
Very traditional.
Very blue blood.
We're part of the juggernaut theory now, and that's just the way it is.
Man, I'm excited about this.
Right? All right, so let's get into – sorry, go ahead.
Can we beat Kansas?
Yeah.
Let's get on to this week. Can we beat Kansas?
Yeah. Actually, let's review last week. Nothing too crazy happened. Baylor took care of Kansas 49-7. Big deal. OU beat K-State, which it was kind of interesting at the beginning, and then OU ran away with it 38-17.
Mm-hmm.
Anything you guys want to say about that one?
Sure. I mean, so I think K-State upset OU, I think like 2 years ago, but I'm not surprised in this game at all because we've seen that K-State is vulnerable to kind of like the deep ball, and OU just slung it on them. You know what I mean? Baker Mayfield and D.D. Westbrook connected quite a bit, and I think we've seen K-State.
Hello.
Great state team we've seen. You know what I mean? I guess we thought at the beginning of the season that they might be exceptionally talented with the way they played Stanford, but I think now they're looking more like the K-State we all know.
And K-State has looked vulnerable too. Or OU has looked vulnerable too, just not towards K-State's strengths.
Right.
And so did Perine get injured? And yes. I heard he was out like the next 2 games possibly.
Yeah, I heard 2 to 4 weeks. And okay. I've also heard that it could be more significant than they're letting on. Mm-hmm. So that's an very interesting thing because, I don't have it in front of me, but I think he ran it like 35 times or 30 times, and didn't he? When you've got one guy running it 35 times and another guy running it 20, or whatever it was, and then you have Baker Mayfield completing over 70% of his passes this year, you're starting to get pretty nasty on offense, right? Whether your defense is good or not. Mm-hmm. Now, the problem is now you take away 30 runs, a guy who's going to pound the rock 30 times. That is going to change your situation. And that's going to put a lot more pressure on Baker, which he's not, in my opinion, not good. Well, he's obviously really good, but he's not good about maybe being the man. He's a really good, efficient quarterback, and he's smart, and he uses his feet very well. But to me, it's going to be possibly interesting going forward without Perine.
Yeah, we've seen this. I think it's an underrated feature of OU's offense is that the reason why Baker Mayfield can be so successful is that he has Perine and Mixon to offload it to have that run threat, to keep other teams honest when it comes to the rushing attack. But without Perine, you're just dealing with Mixon, and that definitely limits it. And we also noticed that OU, really Baker Mayfield, his only target is D.D. Westbrook. Andrews, their tight end, was kind of reliable at the beginning of the season, but he's kind of messed up and had some bad deals. I want to say he was responsible for a pick. I can't remember if it was TCU or Kansas. It was some purple team that he had a really bad pick on. He's dropped a lot of passes. So really, D.D. Westbrook is kind of the one reliable receiver, and I imagine they use Mixon in the slot. But yeah, without Pirine and with one target, I mean, it'd be real easy to make OU pretty one-dimensional.
If there are any silver lining to this, it just happens to come at a pretty decent time in the schedule. They've got Tech next, Kansas up, Iowa State, which is we all know is hazardous.
Mm-hmm.
If he could come back right then, they'd have Baylor, West Virginia, and Oak State. So,
yeah, that's a pretty good deal. One thing I think is interesting is this D.D. Westbrook guy. I mean, this dude is coming on strong.
Oh, yeah, he's having a great year. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, his deep threat and the fact that, they figured that out, I mean, that's huge for them. I mean, because, they've always had a pretty fast guy here and there. Mostly over the last several years, they've had, quick underneath guys that are making plays underneath. But that deep threat, that really opens up OU.
Yeah.
That's what really sets, in my opinion, Baylor. Obviously Baylor does a lot of good things, but the one thing that they consistently have done over the last several years is have consistent deep threats all the time to go along with amazing running backs and underneath stuff and all that other stuff. But that's what totally kills you. I mean, it just murders you. If you can't cover all the underneath stuff and a running back up the middle and the deep ball, and you can't cover, Pirine 35 times and the deep ball, it's impossible to cover it all. So I think if there's any silver lining to OU's, Pirine going out, it's that this D.D. Westbrook guy is really, really coming on strong. So I think that will be if they continue winning, I think that will be, what they have to rely on,
Yeah, I think we also saw in this game, OU's defense isn't anything great, but I think we saw kind of Kansas State's offensive ineptitude a little bit. We against teams like West Virginia, and really Kansas State really only blew one team out of the water. I think it was like an FCS school or something like that. But I think we're seeing Kansas State kind of go through some offensive struggles. They're not an offensive juggernaut by any means, and I think that's why they can't keep up with a team like Oklahoma. Oklahoma just kind of historically blows them out. But that's really all I can think of about that game is just kind of really what did we learn? Not a whole lot, other than these two teams are more like they have been than ever before. Kansas State maybe isn't as scary now, and OU, while I don't want to say they're not scary and they're not capable of winning, I don't know. We saw Westbrook break out, and that's great. But at the same time, the result of this game with Pirine going out, we see some weaknesses too.
Speaking of a team that we're not sure what to think of and historically hasn't been this good, West Virginia is 5-0, ranked number 20, probably the lowest undefeated because we're the Big 12. They beat Texas Tech 48-17 this weekend.
Yeah.
So
two things jump out at me of this one. How many West Virginia scored, or how big the margin of victory was, and also how few points Tech scored.
So one thing that Coach Bro said this week was, Mahomes didn't practice all week. So he said it actually, I mean, in his mind, that's the reason why they sputtered, is because, he just didn't look sharp. I actually didn't watch the game. I was at, I wasn't able to watch the game, but he said, you got to practice in this offense. You have to practice, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And, whether he's hurt or not, whether he's still rusty or whatever is going on with him, he didn't practice. Two, West Virginia's defense has been pretty good this year, like pretty dang good. And Texas Tech still has a negative power defense. Negative. They're not bad. They're negative, which is worse than bad. Yeah. So 50 points on Tech is basically a mediocre day for West Virginia offensively.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what I mean. I think to that point, what we saw here was, I think we see that West Virginia, we look at the 48 points, and most people who don't know these teams would probably be like, wow, what an impressive offensive performance. And not to discredit West Virginia and what they did, but anyone can put up 48 points against Texas Tech. And so that doesn't really change my opinion about West Virginia's offense. I still think Skylar Howard is perfectly capable of performing well and making some awesome throws, and that West Virginia's just their offense all around is decent because it's a Dana Holgorsen team. Of course, it's going to
Sure.
have that capability, but I don't think I wouldn't put it up there in the Baylor or even an OU category really. But what we did see, I think, and to your point, is that West Virginia's defense is definitely being tested and is kind of, I would probably say, the real deal. And I think Coach Bro making any sort of excuse for Mahomes is kind of lame because they have a good second string quarterback. And so if he decided to keep Mahomes in, obviously he saw something good enough to keep him in. And so to score 17 points with that type of offense, I don't know. But I will say that Texas Tech is missing a running back. They're missing a running game this year. They had one of the leading backs in the Big 12 last year, I think, if not the leading running back in the Big 12. And they're really missing him this year. And now it's just a pass attack, and it's real easy to shut down a pass attack, and that's West Virginia's strength is their secondary. So there you go,
If you take away Mahomes' rushing attempts, which we can probably attribute it to mostly sacks, he had 13 rushing attempts for negative 10 yards, which almost all quarterbacks do that, unless you're a running quarterback.
13 rushes.
Yeah, he had
13. No, I mean, without him,
Yeah, they had 14 rushing attempts without him. That was the point, is they have no run game. And they didn't even try. Or, if you want to compare it to Gundy, he at least goes out there and he'll run up against that line all game.
Yeah.
Which is insane. But
sure,
I understand why. I mean, I this isn't PlayStation where there are no tendencies. You're like, if it's not working, stop doing it and pass because it's not going to work ever. They have to, eventually they have to stop that. Like if they are stopping it, they're either doing it with 4 guys up front and everybody else is in coverage, but they're probably not doing that. So if they're thinking, oh, they're going to run, I've got to start committing to the run or whatever, then you can catch them off balance. That's just how football works. It's strategy. But, Texas Tech, nobody thinks you're going to run. And then when you run and it gets you nothing because your guys aren't effective, and then you're behind and you've already got a guy that's going to throw it for, 44, 50 times a game, it puts you in a position. Then they could start teeing off on guys, in the secondary.
Oh.
So,
So that's interesting. West Virginia seems to be the real deal.
I know.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So the question I have for you guys is, do they run the table? I mean, is it that team? Is it their year? Is the down Big 12, going to have a whatever you'd want to call a middle tier? I'm not saying West Virginia's middle tier, but historically in the Big 12, they've been middle tier. Are we going to have that middle tier come up and win the Big 12 this year?
I think the jury's still out for me because I look at who West Virginia's played, and I'm not saying that their resume isn't as impressive as anyone else's, but if they beat a Baylor or an OU, either one of them, and even if they beat a TCU this next week, I'll be a little more convinced. But I look at how they match up with Texas Tech. I look at how they match up with Kansas State, and I can see why they would win those games. I can see easily why they would win those games. But if they're playing a more complete team, both offensively and defensively, like an OU or a Baylor, then I might, if they win one of those games, I might say, okay, they have a shot. But as it stands right now, I don't see them running the table. I see them being at the top with the way that they're playing. I see them beating a Baylor or an OU, and definitely TCU. But do they win the Big 12? I don't know. They're definitely in contention. I can't say that they will or won't, but I think they're definitely in contention.
So they haven't beat who have they played in the Big 12?
They played K-State and Tech, and that's it. They beat Missouri first game of the year.
Beat K-State 17-16, and K-State just got smashed by OU.
Yeah.
So
well, we know the transitive property isn't always.
I know, but there is something to be said.
Sure.
Yeah. They're taking so.
Yeah, I'd say give us 2 more games and then we can decide on West Virginia. That'll be the TCU game and then the OSU game.
Yeah.
And once us three, we see them up close, then we could probably have a better judge.
Mm-hmm.
But they still have to play Texas. They still have to play OU. They still have to play at Iowa State, and then they have to play Baylor first game in December. So they have a tough schedule. I'm not saying they can't do it. I see them hanging around the top of the standings for the rest of the year. Whether they win out, I can't say that, and I can't bet on them yet. But I'm not going to bet against them yet either.
Yeah.
So okay, so who they play? TCU, O State, KU, Texas, OU, ISU, and Baylor. Okay, so if they come out and beat TCU, what say you then, Chris? Have they arrived?
I said I need 2 games.
All right.
So
if they beat TCU and OSU,
then Virginia the rest of the year.
Man, they got a bad last half of the season.
They do. They have a tough back end schedule.
I think for me, it really just depends on how Baylor performs too in the next 2 weeks. I think once we see Baylor play some real teams, then I'll be able to judge those two, because I think those are the 2 teams to be perfectly honest. I personally think Baylor's probably the most complete team on paper right now. I think OU's shown too many weaknesses for me to believe that they would beat a Baylor. But I think depending on how Baylor does, if Baylor collapses like the glass castle that they inevitably will, whether it's this year or next, I don't know. Then I'll say.
What's funny is, go ahead, Chris.
I kind of thought it was just me waiting for Baylor to collapse.
No, everybody's kind of like, but Baylor's going to collapse. Like, they haven't yet, and they've taken care of business quite well, if I might add. They've done nothing but win and do well. Have they even been close? They beat Kansas 49-7.
They had that
Kansas
bad
played
scare
several tough games this year.
They had that bad scare at Iowa State.
Yeah, but everybody's had a scare at Iowa State. Iowa State's a pretty good team who can't win games.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, however, Texas, my God, that was ridiculous.
Yeah.
The best 1-6 team in history. I hate that phrase, by the way.
I guess moving on, Kansas is Kansas, and Iowa State, I think, has lost all their steam for the season. I think they were the little engine that could for a little bit. Obviously, they scared Baylor. They scared us. But they go and play Texas, and then they remember, oh, right, we're Iowa State. And so I think they start there.
Maybe. Here's the thing that shows me that they might have a little bit of life. It was 6-3 at halftime with Iowa State up. Somehow Texas made some ridiculous halftime adjustments, scored 21 in the third. So, yeah, maybe Iowa State can't pull this thing off any longer. But maybe they have a little surprise left in them yet.
Yeah, OU's got to go play them up at Jack Trice. So
yeah, and they're not gonna win out. They're not gonna be at the top. But I would almost bet that they're gonna trip up somebody before the year's over.
Well, that's what they do. That's their role in the Big 12, is to basically be a turd in the punch bowl. I mean, that they do how they do. I mean, it's not like, you're walking out of the stadium and Iowa State fans are saying stuff like, no, it's okay. We knew this was going to happen. It's okay. We know who we are, and it's okay. This is how we do. We lose in this way. I knew we were going to win. Don't worry. They were really cool about it. People were like, hey man, that was a really good game. And they're like, no. We knew this was going to happen, and it's okay. It's like they're self-soothing or something.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to, it's brutal. You travel all the way to, Stillwater, America to watch your ISU, turd in the punch bowl. It's just bad.
So they have K-State, OU, Tech, and West Virginia at home in the last 4 to 5 games. They play Kansas at Kansas. So our games are at home. Which one of those 4 teams would you like to see them trip up?
Oh, OU. Come on.
That's not going to happen. That's just simply not going to happen.
We said that in 2011. And
yeah, but that's us.
Okay, which one do you want them to trip up?
Okay.
Oh,
so, hold on. So,
I stand by my statement.
Yeah, I'm with you. Okay, which one do you want them to trip up, and then who do you think they'll trip up?
Who are they playing again?
See, here's the problem, guys. Here's who they're gonna trip up. They're gonna trip up an undefeated West Virginia.
I was afraid of that. They play K-State.
They're gonna get
OU,
demolished
Tech,
by
and West Virginia.
everybody. They'll beat Kansas.
Well, yeah.
But Kansas is
and,
not
and I
Kansas.
think they beat Texas Tech because of Texas Tech's defense, which isn't a trip up. I mean, Texas Tech's a
I can see
dumpster
that.
fire.
Yeah, Tech seems the most likely.
Yeah, so they're going to go on so they're going to get demolished by Kansas State, and Oklahoma's going to murder them, and then they'll beat KU. They'll beat Texas Tech, I think, handily, maybe 2 touchdowns, which would be handily for them. And then they'll roll into West Virginia undefeated, top 5 at that moment, because they'll have some sort of momentum, and they'll kill all love and hope in the Big 12 for anything ever to be nice again. And they'll beat West Virginia because that's what they do. They love killing us. And they revel in it.
Very possible.
Can you tell there's still a little edginess to the 2011
You're not bitter
season?
at all, are you?
I'm not bitter at all. All right.
Pass.
All right, so looking forward this week coming up, we've got OSU at Kansas. Whatever. Like, I know we're OSU homers. I don't even know if I want to talk about this. Like,
no, we don't talk about
Texas at K-State is an 11:00 game.
K-State has Texas's number. They've had Texas's number for the past few years. I think Texas may have won last year, but Bill Snyder knows how to defeat them, and I think they're the more sound.
Well, most well-coached teams beat Texas in this day and age.
But even when Texas is good, even like Mac Brown era before Case McCoy happened.
Which is
in Manhattan. So it's in Manhattan. And at the moment, K-State is actually a 3-point favorite.
Wow.
I'd take K-State in the close one.
Yeah, I agree.
So is Charlie done at the end of the season?
Yes.
Yes.
He's got to be.
Okay.
I don't want him to be. I like beating Texas, but he's got to be.
I know. It's kind of sad. You're like, Texas is going to be Texas because of name brand forever. But eventually it's like, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Beating them. I mean, sorry, Tommy, if you ever listen to this, but at this point, you probably have to agree. You all need to turn something around before beating Texas is like a massive deal like it used to be. I mean, you go down and beat Texas in Austin, you are a bad team. You know what I mean? You are bad. Now it's like, yeah, cool. We knew we had that, So, okay.
So then we've got TCU West Virginia in the 2:30 game.
I don't know. TCU's still good, man. I think the only thing that concerns me about the West Virginia is that Kansas State game. I still think that they're, I'm not going to say overrated, like, 12 in the nation is about where they should be, obviously, but I just feel like they're potentially, this could be a trap game. I think TCU can win this game. That's what I'm saying.
I think TCU can win this game, but I don't think they will just because of West Virginia's defense. And Kenny Trill has a tendency to make some bad throws. And when you're going against probably the best secondary in the Big 12, I don't like that combination. But I do think it just depends on how Skylar Howard plays. He's, again, throughout his career has shown to be wildly inconsistent. If he's consistent and on, West Virginia rolls. But if he decides to maybe not have a performance like he did against Texas Tech, then TCU could easily sneak their way into winning one on the road, But I think my gut tells me that West Virginia wins this one by 10 points.
In Morgantown, I think they'll be setting couches on fire. West Virginia is actually a 6-point favorite at the moment. So I think West Virginia is going to take that one. The 7:00 game, OU at Tech.
This has trap game written on it to me, and I'll tell you why.
Yeah?
Because Texas Tech has a habit of spoiling OU. They do. I remember, I think it was like 2010 or something when they went to Norman and just destroyed OU's home streak. And Texas Tech was a garbage team that year. Like, they were not good. And so,
as garbage as they are this year,
this is one that OU should. This is one that OU should win and should win handily. But I am not confident enough in OU secondary for Mahomes not to sling it all over him.
So who's better, Houston or Texas Tech?
Well, Houston.
Okay, the one that almost lost to Tulsa.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Tulsa's underrated this year. I didn't even know
The one that lost to Navy bad.
Yeah.
So the one that beat OU by 3 touchdowns.
Mhm.
I'm just asking. I know, and you can't compare all this, but you have to do something to talk, right? Texas Tech is bad, bad, bad. Like, their offense is good. Like, I give them, they have the ability to move the ball. I get it. But, you're only on offense half the time, and you got to stop them
Look, again,
eventually.
OU should win this game, but after coming off such a down week and it being in tortilla land, I don't know. And Tech's history for just playing spoiler to OU sometimes.
Yeah.
I just have a feeling that maybe this is probably the biggest trap, even more so than the Iowa State one. This is OU's trap game, and they better watch out because they have a tendency to overlook people like this.
See, I know the prophet speaks, but I'm not a believer.
I was gonna say I am laughing because Garrett is saying
I know.
that
He's
Tech has a chance to win.
I know, and I'm like, okay, after like 7 weeks of this, I know what's gonna happen now, and I'm still saying no, that's not gonna happen.
Still in denial.
I know, it's weird. It's like, sorry, Garrett. Nothing personal. You're a prophet. Prophet's gonna profit. Hey, speaking of, if Prophet's going to profit, you should be making bets on this stuff.
I should be. I know. I don't know why I don't.
So OU's a 14-point favorite right now. I am kind of on EJ's side, thinking that should be way bigger.
Yeah.
Horses that Garrett is talking about.
I know. It's
pulling
weird.
it down.
I'm with you. It should be. On paper, OU should win this one by 4 touchdowns. But we all know that.
Who am I to go against the things that be?
So I need to be taking the points, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like Ohio State, Wisconsin. They had 11. Wisconsin plus 11.
Oh, yeah. Beautiful.
Taking the points.
Should have taken the points.
Okay. So that wraps up our preview and review. So let's get into something I like to call Provo. We have a problem.
Chris, you've literally been like licking your chops.
I have.
Review. He's like, blah, blah, blah. James, games. Shut up. Let's talk about them. Go.
Here's the thing about this. So I don't even know where to start. Big 12, president's meeting, athletic directors meeting, whatever. Big 12 meeting happened in Dallas this past week. They voted on whether to expand, and it was just a freaking crap show. And it pisses me off, and it pisses me off the way we did it, and it kind of pisses me off on the outcome. But so let's talk about it.
Chris.
Hello.
Oh, Chris got trapped in a wormhole.
Yeah. Oh, no. And he's probably ranting.
He probably is. He's probably trying to
it.
figure it out right now.
Dang it.
Oh,
I wonder if
Chris.
it's recording us or him.
Oh, it's recording us, I'm sure. But yeah, that's a good question, actually. I don't know.
Okay, so in theory, if it's recording us, maybe we should talk about expansion. Unfortunately, I was like, my mind was open just now, waiting for Chris. I was just like, here we go.
Oh, he's so deep in thought.
Yes, he's like, hold on, guys, it's coming.
Okay.
You know, it catches back up, so he's gonna go.
Fast forward back here.
All right, Christopher.
Yeah.
Sorry, any live viewers. We are having technical difficulties.
But anywho, expansion. Yeah, I don't know. My thoughts on it. I'm kind of emotionally numb to expansion. I'm just kind of like, you want to be hopeful. You want to expect the best, and it's not perfect. Adding these teams. I don't think anyone really wanted group of 5 teams, but that's what we were presented with, and we just roll with it. But here we go. The Big 12 doing very Big 12 things and saying, JK, it was all smoke and mirrors. We lied. We're not going to expand. We just did this to get more money.
So how do you get more money when you're under contract and you didn't do anything?
So I'm sure, from what I understand, so if we were to expand, then ESPN, at least, I'm not sure what our agreement with Fox looks like, they would have to pay us like 25 more million or however much more money for those additional schools, which again, I mean, that's their fault for getting into that agreement in the first place, right? So, I mean, but rightfully so, ESPN and Fox Sports were unhappy about that. So I think they really put the kibosh on this expansion talk, and they probably talked with the Big 12 and said, okay, if you don't expand, we'll give you X amount of money, which isn't, it's not going to be how much the Big 12 would have gotten had they expanded, but it's still more money than they're getting now. So
Right. So let's just talk about. I really wish Chris was here because he's very passionate about this situation.
He's so fired up. He's not even
Dang
here
it.
to talk.
Dang it. Okay. So the expansion talk all started with the need to have a championship game because for some reason that possibly left us out of the playoffs, although a one-loss OU got in last year.
Mm-hmm.
So it didn't leave us out of any playoffs. However, maybe, perhaps, if you weren't a blue blood like OU or Texas, like I hate that term, but I think everybody understands what we're saying. Maybe like, well, obviously a TCU didn't get in, right? And when they probably deserved it 2 years ago, or was it 2 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
And so, the championship game really does allow for, someone who wins the Big 12 outright. You win the Big 12 championship, win the Big 12, you're in,
Mm-hmm.
So, but does that guarantee it? Because there's 5 power conferences and 4 slots.
Yeah.
So everybody that would then have, why would that help the Big 12 over anybody else when other than the smaller teams, I guess, is where I'm going. So how does it help us exactly to add what I'm going to call lesser teams? So, BYU's got their thing going. They've been very competitive over the last, I'd say 5 years. They've been very competitive with, they've beat Texas straight up, down Texas, but Texas. And, Houston's been solid. Cincinnati's not been good at all. You got these teams that, in my opinion, would water down the Big 12 brand overall. Maybe not BYU, but definitely Houston. That's just my opinion. So what exactly, do you expand just to expand? And did they actually make the right decision by not expanding?
Well, I think the reason why you would expand. So first and foremost, I think we all know that the Big 12 is suffering from a perception problem, right? We're already seen as a quote unquote weak league, but the only reason that is because we play round robin with each other. And then we have a terrible bowl showing, which is that's just been unfortunate because we have teams like Baylor and OU that go and choke in their bowl games. But the big advantage I think I saw, at least personally, to expanding wasn't to add a team like BYU or Houston, which those are good teams, don't get me wrong. But it's more or less to add some normalcy to the Big 12 because, look, every other conference has divisions. You have the SEC East, you have the Pac-12 North and South, you have this and that. And, it's no surprise that some of those divisions are easier than others. The SEC East, the only reason Georgia or Missouri ever gets ranked is because they play in a weak division, when in reality, those teams haven't been good for a long time. They just get propped up, A, because they're SEC teams, but B, because they play in such a weak division. So theoretically, you could go in the SEC East and play a bunch of soft teams if you're Florida and Georgia. And if you get lucky and win the SEC championship, you're hailed as the greatest team in the world. It's just, that to me, having those divisions in the Big 12, if we were to go back to the North and the South, I think it would just make it easier